Welcome to the Righteous Kitchen. I am getting ready to make a cheesecake, and for the bottom I am going to bake up a box of brownies. It doesn't matter what mix you use, just follow the directions. I'm also baking the brownie mix in the same springform pan that I'll use for the cheesecake. Since the springform pan has a lip on it, it could be hard to remove the brownies after they've baked. So I'm going to line the springform pan with parchment. I have my brownie mix, oil, eggs, and water. Give this a mix. I like to add extra cocoa powder. This is just Hershey's cocoa powder, unsweetened, 2 tablespoons. The cocoa powder needs to be whisked into the brownie mix. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of chocolate chips. If you have miniature chocolate chips, that's even better. I'm going to use a wooden spoon and stir in the wet ingredients. There's the batter. It's going right to the prepared springform pan. Use the back of a spoon to spread this evenly and level it by wrapping the pan on the counter at 325 degrees in the center rack of the oven. Here is the brownie base out of the oven. I waited until the center puffed up really good to make sure that the center was done. And I took it out just as it's barely starting to pull from the sides. The brownie base is cooling off to the side, and I want to get started on the cheesecake. I use a Philadelphia full-fat cream cheese. Another brand that I like even better than this, but it's more expensive, is Challenge. They have a very good cream cheese. This is more economical because I buy the 4-pack for about $6.50 at Sam's Club. So these are room temperature. They're going to go right into the mixer. You're going to need sugar and flour. Now is a great time to combine the flour and sugar. This will get all the lumps out of that flour. I've got my room temperature cream cheese, sugar, and flour in a mixing bowl. I'm going to use the paddle attachment to mix this up. I want to mix until the cream cheese is softened and there's no lumps. I like to scrape the bowl and the beater to make sure that I'm getting all the lumps out of the cream cheese. I'm going to wipe it down again. I'm going to scrape down the paddle and the bowl. It's this step right here where you get all of the lumps out of the cream cheese. If you don't do it now, it won't smooth out for you later. That's pretty smooth. I'm going to stir in the sour cream and vanilla. At this point, we're just stirring the ingredients in and no more heavy beating. That leaves the eggs. I'm using 5 eggs. I'm holding back 2 egg whites. I'm going to stir 1 egg at a time. Let it combine and proceed with the remaining eggs. Give it another scrape. Give the bowl a final stir. And look at this smooth cheesecake filling. I am going to bake the cheesecake right on top of this brownie layer. This brownie is baked up, it's pretty firm. When I release this from the pan, I want the sides to look nice and clean. So I am going to line this with parchment. I have some egg white here. I'm just going to go inside. This is just to let the parchment have something to grab onto. It really does stick. Now I'm wanting to make sure that this filling is getting contact with this paper. Get out any air bubbles. This is going to bake in the center rack of a 300-degree oven. This cheesecake baked for 2 hours and 10 minutes. You want it to get puffy and to look like it's just going to tear in little pieces. It's a little bit jiggly in the middle, but it'll firm up as it cools down. Right now, I'm going to let this sit on the counter to room temperature. This is the cheesecake. It's cooled down. I'm going to remove the band. I'm going to protect this with plastic wrap. I'm just concerned right now about getting it over the top. I'm cleaning up the edge of the bottom of this springform pan, the base, because I want it to go in cleanly. And then if I want to pop this off of the base, it'll come off without giving me a problem. Do you want that nice and clean? I've cleaned up the baking tray. The goal is to keep the crumbs off of the top and around the side. Then just put this back on it. This will go in the refrigerator overnight. I want to do a ganache drip, and then I want to pipe some for a decorative border. I am using Belgian chocolate. When you're making a ganache with dark chocolate, it's equal parts heavy cream to chocolate. So this is 16 ounces chocolate. I'm going to need 16 ounces of heavy cream. You want the cream hot, but you don't want to bring it to a boil. I let this set for a little bit. Just stir it until the chocolate melts and becomes super smooth. I'm going to move some to a smaller bowl and refrigerate this just for a couple of minutes. You always put some kind of an anchor for the cake to hang onto the plate. So I'm going to use the ganache. It will harden like butter, and I want to leave behind the parchment. I don't want to take the parchment with me. I like to use a bench scraper just to give me stability. So here's the cake. Off comes the plastic wrap. This is thickened up quite a bit. So I'm just going to make my way around and just kind of let it fall kind of where I want it. If I see a little area that needs a drip, I'll just come back. So just go along and let it cascade. I like a chunky, thick drip. Then I'll just coat it with some chocolate. That's it for the chunky drip for right now. Okay, back to the refrigerator. I've prepared 2 rounds. I'll only use 1. The other will be extra. Just going to put half of this mix in here. Here are the brownies out of the oven. They puffed up and just barely starting to come from the edge. Like you have to look really hard to see it just starting to pull. I am going to release these brownies from the pan. Just slide the knife on the inside of the pan to release it. There we go. I may have this side as the top on the cheesecake because those little bits of brownie, they flake off. I mean, this one isn't as bad as this other one. I might use that. I'm going to make the whipped ganache for the cheesecake. And all that is ganache that has hardened in the refrigerator. It's super thick, like fudge. I'm going to scoop this and put it in the mixing bowl. There's the ganache. I'm going to beat this using the wire whip. I want to beat this until it's nice and creamy and fluffy like buttercream frosting. That is nice and spreadable. That should pipe up really nice. So let's fill this pastry bag. I like to use a coupler. That just ensures that you're not going to have a blowout when you're piping. This is a pretty standard tip. Just fasten that together. I use a tall glass. Fold this over and go as far down as you can. Wipe the knife off. There's a little extra. Okay, so there it is. Clean. Then start at the top. Give it a twist. Keep twisting. That's going to compact the frosting. There you go. Here's the cheesecake. I'm going to start with a couple of dots in the middle, and that's going to anchor that brownie. I'm going to use the shiny side up on the brownie and just not touch the top of the brownie because I don't want to lose any more of that glossy topping. So now the last thing to decide is how I want to pipe this border. So let me just see here. I'll go that way. There's one row, and I want to get a second on here. A spatula and press it down. That's a lot of frosting still. Just press it down. And that's it. Oh, that's heavy. There it is, brownie cheesecake. And see this little part that's missing some of the shiny top? I'm just going to put some back on. If you make this, let me know. Please follow The Righteous Kitchen at blogspot.com and across social media.